Hi, this is Rich Lieberman, and this is an easy call. It would be a no-brainer in mostly everybody's notebook, but unfortunately, the powers that be at KNBR are just simply symbolic. There's no real somebody take the bull by the horns kind of person who could do something and make a move that would be real and formulative and decisive. And let me explain what the situation is that I'm talking about. Bill Laskey is the weekend host for the Giants games, post game, Saturday and Sunday. He also does fill in work during the week. I don't know Laskey. I don't know him from the radio. I've listened to him, and he's quite good. And I'll get into why in a second. But more importantly, he's got the gravitas, he's got the acumen and the edge, the background, the experience. He used to be a pitcher in Major League Baseball. He knows the business. He knows, most importantly, not only the business, but he knows baseball. And he's on now, KNBR, on their weekend and during the week. Lately, you've heard a lot of him, and he's quite good. Why not just give him the title as new permanent host that does the post-game show? You know, when they take calls, usually from fans, it's the immediate, hey, what'd you think of this game tonight? And they have interaction. It's basically the essence of sports talk radio that have teams in their lineup, like the Giants, like the 49ers. That's the great part of listening if you're a fan, or even if you're not. You like interaction, you like the back and forth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Lasky has that. He's got retail, he's got credo and credibility and all the fill in your own verbiage. And he's good. And he's been filling in a lot lately to the point where they're paying him not what they'd have to pay him on a full-time basis, but in essence, folks, he's become full-time. And look, is he Nirvana? No, but he is quite good. And he has credibility, knows the game, pitched for many years, one of the few jocks that isn't brain dead, that has something to say. Oftentimes, I may add, when he's critical, he really adds to his credibility because he's not the usual jock, that doesn't want to criticize former players or present day players. He does that. But most importantly, he makes salient points. He's good and he's great with callers. He can be critical, he could be decisive, he could be all of the above, which is main ingredients to having a capable, dare I say, entertaining presence following the games on KNBR. Why not make Bill Laskey the host? You pay him $100,000 a year. Laskey, from all I know, doesn't need the money. Got a pretty good pension, has accounts up the yin yang. He could probably bring in the accounts that he already has if you listen to his show on the weekend. If a real program director were at KNBR, you know what he would do? He would sit down, talk to the Cumulus heads, make a conscious presentation. And of course, Lasky would have to okay it, and I'm sure he would. You make him the permanent host. You let him do Wednesday through Sunday because the bulk of baseball games are on the weekend and the early or the late week, Wednesday through Friday. And then, of course, the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Monday, Tuesday generally are off days, but even if they're not, you have somebody else fill in. Some of their fill-ins that they've used, like a Kerry Crowley or the guy that writes, I can't think of his name, for the Bang newspapers. But you put Laskey in. Now, some of the fallout. I've heard through the grapevine that the Giants are not that crazy lately about Laskey because he gets too critical. Give me a break. Laskey is about as too critical as I am being too lean, for God's sakes. He is credible. He is entertaining. He had one really negative point, and he's improved on that greatly. He took way too long for calls, let people stay on and on and on. Now he's moving callers along crisply, and aptly. It's a fluid show. Sometimes he gets a little long in the tooth, but the guy has barely done this for what, 4 or 5 years, if that. But he's improved. He's interesting, and he is, dare I say, credible because he's not afraid to criticize. And that's the thing. You want to put vanilla on, you want to put somebody on like Kerry Crowley or Marty Lurie, way too vanilla. I'm sorry. I'm going to tell it like it is. Laskey has preeminence. He's also got cachet with former ball players who appreciate his candor, his occasional wit, his decisiveness. The callers love him. How many times have you heard, if you listen to the post-game Giants shows, when caller interaction is vital and key, a key cog of that special deal involving listener host interaction on the radio following a baseball game? Well, Laskey is good. Now, did he pay me to say that? No. Did anybody pay me to say that? No. I'm saying it as a person who listens constantly to that show because I like and I enjoy Laskey. He's good, which means somebody will screw it up. Now, I rip a lot. Boy, do I ever. And I have said repeatedly, if this new guy who took the job largely because he wanted the title and so he could put it on his resume, if Mike Holler had any ingenuity, he'd go to management, his own boss, and say, look, let's find a way to get Laskey on board permanent. You're wasting him just leaving him in on the weekends. You give him the gig and you pay him whatever, $100,000, I think is I'm just throwing that out. I don't know the code of conduct in terms of salary. I'm guessing. But here's the deal. KNBR is trying its very, very best, I'll give them that, to kind of stay within the rules, which they have to, and reinvent themselves, which they have not. One thing they could do, and it would show tremendous vitality, not to mention common sense, is to keep key people. Laskey is a proven commodity. You know, maybe you're content to have him just on the weekend. Maybe he's content with that. Maybe he doesn't want to do full time. I don't know. I'm basing this on what I hear. I do know this. To have good people and to retain them and to get them at a bargain price during baseball season, no less, when you have a very, very old audience, when you have advertisers leaving in droves, despite the fact that the Giants are winning, keeping somebody on radio, not FP Santangelo, God forbid, not Joe Rizzo, not far D-listers. You keep somebody like Laskey because he absolutely hits it out of the park, to use a baseball phrase, even though he was a pitcher. But Laskey is good. Again, I keep saying this, credibility. And he interacts with callers. He's not an asshole like some of the hosts on KNBR try to be, and sarcastic SOBs who think because they have an opinion, like a guy on Dirty Work who likes to get his name in there and think that he is smarter than everybody in the fucking planet. Laskey has good reaction. He has good interaction with callers. Plus, he knows the game. As a pitcher, he'll give you insight. He'll give you pitches. He'll talk not in baseball lingo, but just credo throughout the contest. People love listening to him. Okay, I could do without his weekly interaction with the astrologer from Berkeley, who was quite cute and funny about 10 years ago, but now it's kind of tedious. That's another story to begin with, so we'll stay away from that. But I enjoy Laskey. He's developed quite a following, apparently, at KNBR, particularly after the game, when they take calls and they talk about what had just transpired. This is an easy one, Mr. Holler. Find the money. As I said earlier, Laskey probably brings in a good $50 to $100,000 of advertisers with him between his dogs, between his other hotels and his grocery chains and all that. I'm sure you could find a way, Mr. Holler, to keep somebody that is very, very accrued, who has something to say, and more importantly, people are wanting to listen to him. He will probably bring in revenue. He will probably enhance the very little appetite at the post game for San Francisco Giants games. And, the thing with the Giants themselves and Larry Bear, if it's truly the situation where they don't want some guy who is critical of the team, well, that speaks high and mighty of what the Giants think of the modern day sports media. If they're going to meddle with some guy who's clearly not as confrontational and yes, is critical, because we want to hear that, especially Giants fan. I'm not a Giants fan, but I'll tell you what, I listen after the game because I want to hear Laskey driving around or sitting in the house, maybe at a barbecue, the typical summertime deal when listening to Major League Baseball games. It's a cogent part of the broadcast, Mr. Holler. Try to retain somebody who is very, very good and solid. Not great, because nobody is anymore. Well, there's a few people, and they're outside of the market. But keep somebody who has clearly made a presence. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he delivers. My endorsement of Bill Laskey is a no-brainer, in addition to the fact he should be the permanent host on the post-game show. Doesn't have to do the pregame, the post-game Giants broadcast. He's decent, he's good, he's concise, he's fluid. Keep him.